next speaker, Swami Nityananda Giri Maharaj. We have two sannyasis in the symposium. Swamini Swatma Vidyananda Saraswati, a woman sannyasini, is going to present her talk towards the end of the symposium. Before that, we have Swamiji Nityananda Giri Maharaj, Swami himself, a sannyasi, presenting a paper. His topic is Sanyasa in Kriyayoga tradition. Swamiji has been contributing to Indic thinking from a very long time during many events. And he has been so kind to grace this occasion. Pranams to Swamiji in behalf of all the audience and in behalf of Indic Academy. Dandavat Pranam to you. We are all eagerly waiting for your blessings through your paper presentation on the Sanyasa in Kriya Yoga. Namaste, Swamiji.
Namaste. Om Bhadram no Abhivataya Mana. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Dr. Nagaraj ji, all the esteemed panelists, and all the knowledgeable participants who are joining this symposium, and to everybody, my heartiest congratulations, love, and regards. The topic given to me is Sanyasa in Kriya Yoga tradition. I was thinking how I will do justice to the topic within a period of 45 minutes, but a large part of my burden is relieved because there are so many panelists has already spoken about sannyasa traditions, particularly that of Advaita Vedanta and other sannyasa traditions. So I don't have to elaborate the sannyasa traditions. That is why I am getting some time. Just let me first talk about Kriya Yoga tradition and then how it fits into sannyasa tradition, because nowadays we find many Kriya Yogis, they belonging to the sannyas tradition of the Advaita Vedanta. Now, first thing is Kriya Yoga, what it is. If we look into the literature, we don't find many mention of Kriya Yoga. In Patanjali Yogasutras, on the first sutra of the Sadhana Pada, it is explained as Tapahsvadhyayeshvarapranidhanani Kriya Yoga. But without that, so far my knowledge goes, directly mentioning as Kriya Yoga, we don't find much literature. However, in commentaries or in some traditional ways of speaking, the Kriya Yoga is mentioned again and again. But so far the literature is concerned, we don't find much references. Now coming to the present Kriya Yoga tradition, that is very popular because it became popular in West due to the work of Paramahansa Yogananda. In 1861, Yogiraj Sri Shyamacharan Lahidi met his guru, who is known as Mahavatar Babaji, in Dronogiri, near Ranikhet. And then that is the present tradition. So what this Kriya Yoga actually is it some other form of yoga? Like people say various forms of yoga. It is actually not so. If you analyze the present form, what we find is that this is a module. This is a system developed following many yogic and agamic techniques. Some yogic techniques and some techniques from the agama. A module has been developed that is for the self-realization or to attain the state of highest samadhi. That is how. So people have much myths and misconceptions, particularly about this name Kriya Yoga, because of various reasons. Some literatures, maybe for motivational purpose, has said many things which are impractical. Like that, if you practice Kriya Yoga, then you can walk on the sky, you will be a sky walker. I have never seen somebody becoming a crow or a bird, a human being, and flying on the sky by practice of Khechari Mudra or Kriya Yoga, but such type of things. But if you go to the present day, many speakers, particularly in social media, in YouTube, you will find that yogis and yoginis are flying on the sky in Gyanaganj and so many various things which are practically not possible. Or even somebody believes that one will remain alive for the ever, maybe 5,000 years, 10,000 years. His hair will not become white. He will remain ever young. So many things. He can cut the head and join it. So much myths and misconceptions have been cropped up. Maybe something has been said for motivational purpose. What is said in a Philosophy sometimes in every system, it is highlighted very much. But it is not like that. So people has to really understand what this is, because most of the people has many misunderstandings. So to understand this very topic, Kriya Yoga, first one has to understand yoga. Since basic understanding in general public is lacking nowadays about yoga, because since I live in Rishikesh and there are many yogasalas, and people call it the capital city of yoga. And many people come here for yoga teacher training courses. Actually, these are not yoga teacher training courses, these are fitness training courses. Here, only yogic vyayam is done, not even the asana. And their sole aim is health or fitness, because that sells in the West. That is why, if I have interacted with many yoga teachers, if I ask them the definition of yoga, very concept is lacking. They will say join body and mind in the yoga, join yourself with your God is yoga, so many things, which does not fit into the scriptural interpretation of yoga. Then what actually yoga is? Because some people think that this is a set of physical exercise by which one can have a good health or fitness. Some others think this is a set of breathing techniques to relieve the tension, to get rid of hypertension, remaining healthy, and so on. Some others, they think it is a combination of both physical training, that is the yogic exercises, physical exercises, plus breathing, so that it can be used as a therapy to cure the diseases. Yet some other think that this is a concentration technique to increase your level of performance in the day-to-day world. Maybe you are in a corporate sector, you can relieve tension and you can develop a higher degree of concentration, so you can more focus in the work and can get the success. But to some people of some higher understanding, this is something, yoga is something to develop distinguishing intellect, viveka. So we find the level of understanding varies from person to person, depending upon their level of evolution in the ladder of consciousness. And that is normal. But first, now to coming, what actually the purpose is? The purpose here is, I can say, in one of the lines of Sri Aurobindo in Savitri, that the life we live conceals the light we are. In Savitri, he says, actually that is what a type of life we human beings live. We do not know our own self, that the light we are is hidden by our life, because our life is extensive. We are running after our senses and sense-oriented objects. Since our identity is with the intellect, then from intellect, this identity descends to mind, then from mind to senses and sense-oriented objects. Finally, we are in this world. And in this, the process, we forget ourselves, our true self. Now, this is something, yoga is something to reveal your true self. That is why we called that the two definitions of yoga that is normally given is, one is Yujir Yoga, another is Yuj Samadhi. Now people run with the first one, Yujir Yoga, you have to join. You have to join with your God. Are you separate? We are not a religion-centric culture where God sits on the seventh heaven and we are separate from it. That is what recently somebody questioned me. Then he said, Swamiji, you are telling like this because you are a sannyasi and you believe in Advaita Vedantic tradition. That is how I say that everything is one. And there is no concept of joining. Actually, you are within one. Now, if I say, I have to join the space of this house with the total space, since that is foolishness. Similarly, if I say, I have to join my individual consciousness with the total consciousness, that is also foolishness, because individual consciousness is always one with the total consciousness. And if you refute this claim, that no, this is not the way, because that is one aspect, since Advaita Vedanta speaks this, then what about the people who believe in Dvaita, that Ishvara is there and we are his devotees? To them, I will also say, even there, joining is not the thing that Bhakti Yoga teaches. Because in Srimad Bhagavadgita, Bhagavan says to Arjuna, Ishvara sarvabhutanam uddeshe rijuna tishtati. O Arjuna, Ishvara sits in the heart of every being. So if Ishvara sits in the heart of every being, where is the question of joining? Ishvara is not sitting in some heaven where we have to go and join there. And we can say Atma Sakshatkar. The self is not there somewhere else, and I as a body-mind entity will go and join and meet the Ishvara. It doesn't happen like this. So that is why whether we believe in Advaita Vedantic tradition or Dvaita tradition, in our Sanatana system, there is no question of joining. So Yujir Yoga does not fit here. Rather, it can be fitting into a system of mathematics where we can use that. What philosophically stands is use samadho. Samadhi is yoga. Why samadhi is yoga? Because in samadhi, we have the realization of ourselves. At that time, we do not identify ourselves with any other object, including our own intellect. That is the reason in Samadhi, we have the self-realization. In here, Samadhi means I am talking about the final state of Samadhi, that is asampragyata, not the 6 stages of sampragyata Samadhi. Then one realizes the self, and then he realizes, oh, I am always there. That means the ignorance is relieved. That is what the purpose of yoga teaches, and in simple words of Patanjali, it has been said as chitta vritti nirodha, to halt all the vrittis of chitta. Now, to halt all the vrittis of chitta, when we halt our all vrittis, then we don't have to identify with any vritti, as it is said by Patanjali, that when one is not in samadhi, then his identification is with the object, is with the vritti. So a vritti is not an activity of mind, rather activity of chitta. Then at that time we have an object in our mind and we identify ourselves with that object. So when we identify with the object, then we are not identifying ourselves with the pure consciousness. That is why yoga is nothing but realization. Realization of the Chitti Shakti, the principle of consciousness. That is why the sadhana Pada, I am not going to describe all the vrittis and others, is what has been described by Patanjali is abhyasa and vairagya. Abhyasa, vairagya, bham, tan, nirodha. By abhyasa and vairagya, practice and detachment, one can reach to that state. The same is also said in Bhagavad Gita, abhyasena tu kaunteya vairagyena cha grihati. That means the main practice comes, the practice of vritti nirodha and practice of vairagya. So vairagya becomes the main theme in the philosophy of yoga. Now, if we come to the Advaita Vedanta, what is there? Or forget about Advaita Vedanta, any tradition of sannyasa, be it that of Natha Yogis, be it that of Gaudiya Vaishnavas, be it that of Utkaliya Vaishnavas, be it that of Ramanandis, be it that of Udasins, be it that of Vishishtadvaitavadins, Vairagya takes the center stage. That is why when we come to Vairagya, then you are a sanyasi. That is what in Bhagavad Gita has it is said that asansaya mahabaho, sorry, in Bhagavad Gita it is said in the chapter 6, the first sloka, that onasrita karma phalam karyam karma karoti. That is the most important part, onasrita karma phalam. When you are not dependent on the result of your actions, you are not expecting any results. That means you have no raga, no attachment, and you are just doing karma because you have to do a karma. So sanyasi cha yogi. He is called sanyasi. And the same person is also called a yogi. So sanyasi cha yogi cha no niragni no cha kriya. One who has become niragni or akriya in a traditional sannyas like us in Advaita Vedantins, we live agni, fire. Because a sannyasi is not advised to use agni, means do homa, yajna, because that is always done with a kamana, with a desire. Since that comes under the Purva Mimamsa part, where one has to do these karmas for fulfillment of certain noble desires, that desire is not there. Since for a traditional sannyasi who is holding the linga of sannyasi, that means a saffron cloth and a bead of rudraksha and all these things, and danda, he is not, he don't has to use the fire. Even nowadays, people are using even fire for cooking. Sannyasi is mandated to live life by begging, even not to cook food for himself, and to have to become a kriya. He left all the karma kandas, all the kriyas. Then, at that state, we, as a sannyasi, we hold the linga of sannyasa, the leave the use of fire, do leave the use of yajnas, homas, karma kandas. We leave all these things and we leave the karma kanda portion of the Vedas, only remaining in the jnana kanda portion. Then that is a formal sannyasa. That is a traditional sannyasa. That has another importance. But if someone, even if not doing this formally, but has inner vairagya, that is the most important thing, then he is a yogi and he is a sannyasi. Inner vairagya, suppose one becomes a sannyasi, but there is no inner vairagya, then what will happen? I go and sit in a cave, but I am attached to the cave. Then the whole purpose of my sannyasa is defeated by that attachment. So that is what in a general term. And if you look into the verses 1 to 10 of the chapter 6, starting with this anasrita karma phala, and we compare them, actually there is no difference between a yogi and a sannyasi. That is why even if one is a household yogi and a sannyasi who are have inner detachment, outwardly they may resemble different, that is the same thing because they reach to a same state. So that is how the sannyasa and yoga is found. But how this fits into the tradition? So that we have to understand little more about the yoga and the philosophies. Now, there are two different philosophies. Yoga philosophy is a different philosophy, and Advaita Vedanta philosophy is a different philosophy. One starting with the Yogasutras of Patanjali and another starting with the Brahma Sutras. Now, I believe in this philosophy. Someone else may believe in that philosophy. Say, for example, all other philosophies, be it Sankhya or Nyaya or Purva Mimamsa. Becoming adherent to a philosophy is different, and having the knowledge of self is different. Suppose I became an adherent to a philosophy, proponent of that philosophy, believing in that philosophy, having knowledge of that philosophy intellectually, then someone else in another philosophy, finally it may culminate in an intellectual gymnastic and giving no real result for the purpose for which that has been meant for. So that is why in our tradition, though philosophies are for understanding, actually emphasis is given on the practice. Without the practice, if we simply become adherent to a philosophy, that is not going to help in the realization. That will simply make one a high intellectual, and as said, described in different Upanishads, such people are called Sabdagyani, the knowledge knower of the Sabdas. They can go on speaking for hours and hours, but actually they are not established in this tradition of acquiring the knowledge itself. Now coming again back to the Kriya Yoga, since I said, described the yoga, what actually this Kriya Yoga is. Kriya Yoga is nothing but the practice part of the yoga. Kriya means action, activity. And as illustrated in the first sutra of the Sadhana Pada in Patanjali, that Tapahsvadhyaya and Ishvara Pranidhana. These three things. First is tapa, austerities, by which we have mastery over our senses and sense organs, by which we have mastery over our minds. So, religious texts, Upanishads, agama scriptures, Puranas, they describe certain techniques which a practitioner has to practice to have mastery over the mind. Also, they describe certain techniques a practitioner has to practice to have mastery over senses and sense organs. One who practices those techniques, he is practicing a tapa. That is tapas. Though there are many myths about the tapas, but in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna has said, those who give pain to the body, like I can go to the water on the cold winter, stand inside in the water in the winter night and do tapa. That is, these are kuchra sadhana. This may give a temporary result, but these results are not permanent. Or I can put fires in my front, in my back, in my left, in my right, and on the summer day, I can sit inside. These will give temporary results. I don't say these will give temporary results, but these will give temporary results. Some people go very extreme. Tongue is creating problem, they can cut tongue. This is foolishness. Eye is creating problem, they can destroy their eyes. Because actually your senses are not creating problems, because the master of your senses is your mind. Since mind is your master, as said in chapter 3, verse 42, Indriyani paranyahu Indriyebhyo parang man manosastu para buddhir ja buddhi parasastur sa. So, who is the master of the Indriya? It is the mind. Indriyas are the masters of the objects, and mind is the master of the Indriya. And buddhi, the intellect, is the master of the mind. And what is beyond the intellect, that is the you. So, what happens here? We remain with the Indriyas and the sense-oriented objects. That is why we are in a bondage. We are in a bondage. And we have to go beyond the intellect. Till we don't go beyond the intellect, we are not knowing what is that pure consciousness principle. So that is should be the practice. That is why Vairagya is the very important part in this practice. Since the purpose is of a human life is here is the final Purusartha, the moksha. To that to achieve, we have to have this Vairagya. That is why tapa is the first condition. Since and as site of exercise, that all will come under the Kriya Yoga part of the tapa, which by which one is able to control his senses and mind. Next is comes in the Swadhyaya. Swadhyaya is normally interpreted as the reading scriptures, listening to your teacher, and so on. That is the Swadhyaya. Because suppose we have seen in our student life, there are many students in our college life. They can finish one novel in a day. Then what type of a mentality they grew? What is a novel? An ordinary novel. One hero, one boy, two girls, something happens between them. Or one girl, two boys, something happens between them. That is the whole theme in a novel. So if someone is reading that these things, he can develop himself with literal skill. But what will be his mind? What will be the breathage of his mind? What will be the state of his mind? Similarly, if one reads the scriptures, one reads the Vedas, Upanishads, Puranas, agama shastras, or to the practice he is following. Suppose he is a student of Advaita Vedanta. If he is, why they are asked to read again and again the Bhagavad Gita, 10 Upanishads and Brahma Sutra, and some Prakarana Granthas like Panchadasi or Vedanta Sara or Advaita Siddhi, because this will orient your mind, take your attitude towards that things. You will develop an aptitude. You will develop, will orient your mind, your intellect in that level, so that your practices will be helpful in that regard. But that is the Bahya Anga, the external limb of the Swadhyaya. The internal limb is the practicing those techniques which will help you to know yourself. So in that way, there are certain yogic techniques described in Upanishads, in yogic texts, in agama shastras, that has been practiced. And then the third most principle is Ishvara Pranidhana. Ishvara Pranidhana is often misinterpreted as, not, I will not say exactly misinterpreted, as something devotion towards a particular deity. Devotion towards a deity is good, but exactly by that, Patanjali is not meaning the Ishvara Pranidhana. First, we have to understand the principle of Ishvara. What is the Ishvara principle? As has been explained by Patanjali or by other scriptures, the description of Ishvara. Klesha, karma, vipaka, asaya, aparamrushta purusha vishesha Ishvara. If that is not happening, if that concept is not there, and I bring some imaginary deity in my principle and say that this is Ishvara, then that is not happening. This will take a long time to explain. Just in short, I say, a ordinary person, a jiva, is inflicted by the pleasure, sufferings. And to get rid of those sufferings, he is trying to do some karma, actions. Then those actions give the results, vipaka, karma phala. Then he enjoys them in the form of pain and pleasure. And all these have their imprint, sanskara, that is called asaya. And these asaya in the chitta again further creates the desire and further karma phala and further asaya. In this way, the cycle is going and the jiva is suffering. He is afflicted. But Ishvara is a special Purusha. Jiva is also Purusha, but is a special Purusha who is not afflicted by all these things. That means Jiva is a Purusha, Ishvara is a special Purusha. That is the only difference here. Why? Jiva is clinged to the buddhi, to the intellect principle. That is why he finds intellect at his own self. From intellect comes down to mind. From mind comes down to the body. Now he knows himself, the physical body, as the self. That is ignorance. Where is the, in total consciousness, in cosmic consciousness, there is no such identity. That is why it is free from all these obstacles, all these sufferings. A wave in a sea has the fear of being created and being destroyed. But sea itself does not have that, because this is vast. This is total. That is why we have to understand the principle of Ishvara. If we understand the principle of, and further describes the principle of Ishvara as that of the, he is the guru of all the ancients. That means he is the guru, the teacher of all the teachers, because entire creation comes out of that. That is why in Kriyayoga practice, the object, the whole total motto goes to the Ishvara Pranidhana, the Ba. Without that, because I can practice concentration. I can practice concentration on this pen, or I can practice concentration like a crane standing in the water to catch hold of a fish. But that will not make the crane realize. Similarly, we find some people who are involved in crimes. They are highly concentrated. They are highly focused. Simply practicing concentration and focus is not going to do that. And these three further expanded into the 8 limbs of yoga. And the center stage of this limb becomes the dharana, dhyana, and samadhi. Now, particular this discipline of Kriya Yoga as comes that from Mahavatar Babaji to Lahidi Baba and Lahidi Mahasaya and others. Here, as I said, is an amalgamation of yogic techniques and some techniques from the agama. That is why here, what we find in the beginning, the focus, the object of meditation is prana. The prana of the practitioner. So that is why it is called Pranavidya. We find enough description of it in Brihadaranyaka Upanishad and Chandogya Upanishad and Prasna Upanishad. So the prana becomes the focus of the object. Why prana is the object? It is not that focusing on other objects is wrong. No, it is not wrong. I can focus on a deity like Krishna or Shiva. I can focus on a yantra. I can focus on a mantra. I can focus on a candle flame. I can focus on sun, moon, star. I can focus on sky. I can focus on a mandala. All are legitimate practices as described in the scriptures. But here, the object of meditation is prana, because naturally every day a person's mind merges with prana when he attains the susupti state. In Jagrata, the state of awake, our senses are working, all the organs of actions are working, because behind that there is our mind, which is also working, and we are creating breathing. When we go to the dream state, swapna, physical body and senses, they take rest. But mind goes on working, creating breathing. We see without the seeing, we hear without the hearing, we speak without the speaking, we work without our hands working, we walk without our legs working. All this happens, though physical body is taking rest, simply with the activities of mind. So vritti is concerned, Jagrata and Swapna are same. But when we go to Susupti, now mind takes rest. Where mind takes rest? Those who has read this Sankara Bhashya of Mandukya Upanishad, they know, there it is said that have you seen a sleeping person? The disciple in the question and answer said yes. So who is awake in a sleeping person? The answer is prana. Prana is awake. Since prana is awake, all others are taking rest in the prana, and prana absorbs all the senses and mind in Susupti. So this is a natural process. That natural process, what is happening in Susupti, if we can do that by our practice of meditation, then that will become Turiya. This is the only difference between the state of a Susupti and Samadhi, is that in Susupti, vrittis are absent. Of course, one vritti is there, that is Nidra vritti. That will be a completely different discussion. I am not going into that. But in Samadhi, also vrittis are absent. But in Susupti, that happens in Tamas quality, in sloth. So, after getting up, the person is not aware of his state. Whereas, in case of a Samadhi, he is fully aware about its state. So, that is why this prana is the principle of meditation in this system. But there are others, like something brought out from the agama, like the how our mind works. In our body, mind works with the brain and spinal column. That is the central nervous system. So due to the work of the rishis, they find there are certain centers which we called the chakras, Muladhara, Swadhisthana, Manipura, Anahata, Visuddha, Agya, and Sahasrara, where a person also meditates. This system is coming from the agam, and that is amalgamated. And a system, a module has been developed. That is what we know as a Kriyayoga. And when it was taught, I am not going to, due to shortage of time, I am not going into all these details. When the system was taught to Lahidi Mahasaya, he was directed to spread it among the householders. Because householders, normally people think this is the work of the monks, sadhus, shramanas, vairagis. Why should a householder do? But in our ancient ages, in Vedic periods, householders are rishis. So that was the idea, to spread among the householders. But again, he has some disciples who are monks, and then later some of his disciples become monks. So that is why a tradition of sannyasa in Kriya Yoga Parampara has started. Most of them, they are following the Advaita Vedanta tradition, and most of them are in the following the Giri Pantha. Just we have Giri, Parvata, Vana, Aranya, Puri, Tirtha, Bharati, Saraswati, Sagara, all these 10 different. Most of them are in the Giri order. But there is no such rule. Anyone can become one. Nowadays also we find Kriya Yoga practitioners becoming sannyasa, taking sannyasa in the Vaishnava Sampradaya or even in a Natha Sampradaya. There is no contradiction to this. Why? Because in Sanyasa Sampradaya, what we actually do is, the practice is shravana, manana, and nididhyasana. Now here practice is something different. So how shravana and manana and nididhyasana fit into here? What in actual practice I am telling is happening, because there are now many methods of Kriya Yoga tradition. There, shravana, manana, nididhyasana is not the prime object of practice. But they do not deny shravana, manana, and nididhyasana. Individually, the practitioners, they can practice shravana, manana, and nididhyasana. There is no obstacle to them. But as an institutionalized practice, in these ashramas, we don't find this technique. Now, what is the problem? What is how it should be harmonized? As it is said, we find in present day Sankarapanthis, most of them are there simply emphasizing in Shravana, Manana, and Nididhyasana. They first come to the ashram, either from Brahmacharya ashram, or from Grahastha, or from Sanyas, or from Vanaprastha. whatever it may be. But the tradition, normal tradition is first learning grammar, then learning Sankhya, reading Sankhya Karika, then Yoga Sutras, then learning Tarka Sangraha, then going to the Brahma Sutra, and mostly reading the Shankara Bhashyas of Bhagavad Gita, 10 Upanishads, and Brahma Sutras. These three called Prasthanatrayi. Then some Prakarana Granthas like Viveka Chudamani, Panchadasi, Advaita Siddhi, Vedanta Sara, and so on. But the very basic thing, which is lacking in 90% of present day sannyasis of this Dashmami, is the Sadhana Chatushtaya. As prescribed by Bhagavad Pada, Adi Shankaracharya, that a person first should be Sadhana Chatushtaya Sampanna, means he should have these 4 practices: Viveka, the distinguishing intellect, distinguishing from individual self to that of the Brahman, Atma and Anatma, self and non-self distinguishing, then Vairagya, detachment. This Vairagya, as I have already said, it can be physical Vairagya or it can be inner Vairagya. Simply physical Vairagya without inner Vairagya is useless. As Vairagya has completely, what is Vairagya? That Drushtanusabdika Vishaya Krishnasya Vashikara Sangya Vairagya. I am not discussing and what is Para Vairagya, because the things will become much more, time will take consume more time. Then Viveka, Vairagya, and Mumukshutva, extreme desire for moksha, and Sat Sampatti, where comes Sama, Dhamma, Uparati, Titiksha, Shraddha, and Samadhana. Sama, control of mind; Dhamma, control of senses and sense-oriented organs; Uparati, bringing the senses, from the sense-oriented objects, bringing back from them; and Titiksha, to able to withstand the difficulties like summer and winter, pain and pleasure, all these things, and Shraddha. Because without Shraddha, one cannot start. And Samadhana. The final Sampatti, if Samadhana is not there, then one simply goes doing Shravana, Manana, and Nididhyasana, he will simply become an intellectual. As much as he do, he, without the Samadhana, without the Chitta Siddhi, without attending at least Sabija Samadhi, as described by Patanjali, one simply goes on doing Shravana, Manana, and Nididhyasana, which is not going to succeed. But nowadays, not all, most of the people are leaving this first part as prescribed by the Bhagavad Pada, Adi Shankaracharya, and simply go with Shravana, Manana, and Nididhyasana. Then they become intellectual, they can give long speeches, but there is no inner purity. Inner purity is not achieved. For inner purity to achieve, if you see the Sama, Dhamma, Uparati, Titikya, Samadhana, all these are yogic practices. So Kriyayoga actually helps in that, to reach to a state of Samadhana. At least after one reaches the state of, even one state of Sampragyata Samadhi, if we suppose, say for example, Savitarka Samadhi, after that even if he goes for Shravana, Manana, and Nididhyasana, then he will be successful. That is why it has no contradiction to the Sanyasa Parampara, rather it becomes complementary to the Sanyasa Parampara. So that is why the Kriyayoga tradition helps in that way in or we find in the present day, though institutionally there is no shravana, manana, and nididhyasana taught in these ashramas, but they are not denied. People are allowed to follow their own path. But this state of achieving sama, dhamma, uparati, titikya, because all are yogic techniques, all are in though said in different names sometimes, that helps people to achieve the Kriya Yoga status. Now, also, that is what about the present Kriya Yoga tradition. Now, in the name of Kriya Yoga, there are many things has been in a different institutions, different brand people say. Some people say Karma Kanda is Kriya Yoga, because in Agama there is Jnana, there is Yoga, there is Kriya, there is Charya. Now Jnana is the knowledge, Yoga to practices, inner practices, yogic practices to achieve that knowledge. Then there is Kriya. Here actually it is Upasana Kanda and Karma Kanda and the Charya, the daily life. So some people mix those Kriya and Yoga to say that this is a Kriya Yoga, but there is nothing wrong in it, because any practice we carry out to reach to the state of samadhi, where our vrittis are halted and we realize our own self, that can be called as a Kriya Yoga. So since this system is developed, there are others also making some combinations of some techniques, and they are also developing a system, a module, and we cannot say them that wrong. But how far people are becoming successful, that all depends how the techniques are chosen from the scriptures, because we don't find these techniques at a one point in one Upanishad. We have to find it in different Upanishads. Say, for example, Nadavindu Upanishad, Dhyanabindu Upanishad, Kausitaki Upanishad, a series of Upanishads, Prasna Upanishad, Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, Chandogya Upanishad. So we find in techniques and some yogic texts and also some agamic texts. So a module has been developed so that one can work in the inner self to reach to a state of samadhi. And in a sannyasa tradition, that is always there in some form, because samadhamma, uparati, titikya, saddha, samadhan, while they are as preconditions to a Advaita Vedantic monastic life. Now with this, I think I have taken a lot of time. If there is any question to be asked, you can ask. Om Shanti, Shanti,
Pranams,
Shanti.
Swamiji. That was really a very, very erudite and highly logically argued presentation of connection between Kriya Yoga and Sannyasa. Actually, there was a topic in our list called the relationship between yoga and sannyasa. Now we are very fortunate that you covered that topic. In the morning, someone was bringing the topic of whether the sequentiality of the four ashramas is limited to Brahmins. Then itself, I was intending to bring this shloka from Raghuvamsha, where it is actually applied to Kshatriyas, Raghuvamsha Kshatriyas, and where the word yoga is used as a synonym for sannyasa. Shaishavebhyasta vidyanam yavvane vishayaishinam vardhakye munivrittinam yogenante tanutyajam. This shloka, we in our childhood, we were taught Raghuvamsha as part of our Sanskrit learning from my father in a very early childhood. Then itself we heard this shloka and it was there always in our memory. And in that you have the word yoga as synonymous to sannyasa. The last part of the shloka says yogena ante tanutyajam. And the remaining four parts in Raghuvamsha are describing the four ashramas in a sequence. And the word yoga being used as synonym for sannyasa can be justified only with such an elaborate and meticulous presentation the way you have done. That was amazing, Swamiji. We are all grateful to you. Pranams to you.
Even in Uttarakhand, if you go to the hills, to all the sannyasis, the normal people, village people, they called as yogi. They don't called as sannyasi.
Aditi ji wrote to you, Swamiji, it is the attachment to the senses and their needs that is the root of the problem. Thank you for the lovely knowledge you are sharing, Swamiji. Pranam.